Welcome to R&R Living Life. In this episode, Rick and I continue exploring the Mudgee area, checking out Spring Creek camping area in the Goulburn River National Park, and then on the following day making our way to Loo and then on to Rylstone, before heading back past Lake Windermere and Cudgegong to Mudgee, where we again spend the afternoon admiring the heritage buildings. We begin by checking out the impressive old sandstone former St Luke's Anglican Church, opened in 1915, just over Wollar Creek. It replaced the earlier wooden structure built in 1875. Behind the building was the cemetery with at least 50 gravestones. It really was an interesting old building. In 2009 it was announced that the church was to be sold, much to the outrage of the community, with the church's stained glass windows being removed along with furnishings such as the altar, organ and pews. It was sad to see such an impressive sandstone building just sitting idle in the paddock. Wollar is said to be the gateway to the Goulburn River National Park. According to records, in January 1830, pastoralist Richard Fitzgerald, a former convict having arrived in the colony in 1791, was one of the first settlers in Wollar, who employed many shepherds and stockmen to supervise his cattle and sheep. Through his agricultural knowledge and steadfastness, Fitzgerald had been given increasing responsibilities in public farming, and under Macquarie held the position of Superintendent of Agriculture at Emu Plains. By the early 1830s, Fitzgerald was a wealthy private landholder, with land grants in Geelong and Cassler's districts and here at Wollar. It wasn't until 1885 when a village was officially declared near Wollar Creek. With the majority of the Wollar township surrounded by land approved for coal exploration, and Peabody's purchase of almost all the homes in Wollar has seen a decline in the population. Only a few houses appeared to be lived in, and I wonder what the social, environmental and economic impacts on this local community have been since mining in the area began, as from what we saw, very little is left of the town. From Wollar we backtracked to the Goulburn River National Park. Rick was on gravel again and enjoying the drive. Established in 1983, the park covers over 70,000 hectares of land, which stretches for 90 kilometres along the Goulburn River, winding its way past sandstone cliffs, caves and gorges that contain more than 300 Aboriginal sites, reflecting that the area was situated on a major trading route between the coast and the Western Plains. We drove along Spring Gully Drive to the Big River campsite, where we enjoyed the view over Goulburn River as it wound its way past sandstone cliffs opposite the camping area and a fat goanna that waddled its way out of the camping area. We then made our way back through Wollar and returned via the Wollar Road to Mudgee. On leaving Wollar, we passed the edge of Wilpinjong coal mine that has decimated the village of Wollar as it has expanded. Since 2019, Peabody Energy, owner of the facility, has had approval from the state government to demolish at least 5 homes per year in Wollar, with properties purchased under a process fully supported by the New South Wales government to establish a buffer between the mine and local residents to reduce noise and dust impacts. The Wilpinjong operation, covering 35 square kilometres, was approved in 2006, with a number of modifications and extensions approved in 2017, as well as a drilling program that commenced in 2022. Further on, we passed the Munghorn Gap Nature Reserve, the second oldest nature reserve in Australia, steeped in Aboriginal heritage. The reserve protects an area of sandstone pagoda country where striking natural rock formations jut from the bushland like ancient ruins. It amazes me how such a beautiful nature reserve can stand against a mine that destroys the environment. That afternoon we took another stroll along Marker Street. I find the architecture in some of these towns amazing. I wondered why there was a statue of Louisa Lawson, mother of the poet and author Henry Lawson, as I had heard a lot about Henry Lawson, but not about his mother. But I found out that she was quite influential in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Louisa was born in February 1848, was an Australian poet, writer and newspaper owner. She was known for her bold efforts to win women's rights. In 1866 she married Niles Hertzberg Larsen, but later changed the name to Lawson. When her marriage fell apart in 1883, Louisa moved to Sydney. She had little money, so to get by she washed clothing and rented out rooms in her cottage. Then in 1887 she bought shares in a newspaper company, The Republican, where she and her son Henry edited the newspaper, printed on an old press in Louisa's cottage. The following year Louisa was able to edit and publish The Dawn, Australia's first journal produced solely by women, with a strong feminist perspective and frequently addressed issues such as women's rights to vote and assume public office, women's education and economic and legal rights, domestic violence and temperance. Henry also contributed poems and stories to the paper. In 1890 she formed the Dawn Club to help women gain public speaking experience and to discuss possible social reforms, working with others to gain the right for women to vote and hold important jobs. In 1900 Louisa injured her spine when thrown from a tram, resulting in her being unable to continue operating the newspaper. Sadly, it closed in 1905. Afterwards, Louisa lived a lonely and increasingly impoverished life. Such a sad end for an influential woman of her time. The following morning we made our way out to Loo and Rylstone through some picturesque countryside. The grazing country, with what looked like patches of ploughed ground, was bordered by scenic ranges. Loo is located on the now closed Gwabega railway line between the larger towns of Rylstone and Mudgee. Once a prosperous little town after the opening of the railway line to Mudgee in 1884, but then the town saw a decline from the 1930s. The railway station was impressive, as was the historic pub, a regional icon since 1897. On leaving Loo, I was amused by the sheep who had found a nice shady place under the wooden railway bridge on the Gwabaka line that linked Rylstone railway station to Mudgee station complexes. We had been seeing lots of Angus cattle in what I had thought would have been Hereford country. The closer to Rylstone, the country changed from open farmland to the rugged Wollar National Park. Further on from Loo was Rylstone, a rustic stone village set on the beautiful Cudgegon River, one of the oldest villages west of the Great Dividing Range, steeped in colonial heritage. The town is tucked into the picturesque corner of the Mudgee region on the edge of the Blue Mountains, with the Wollar National Park to the east and the scenic Cappertree Valley to the south. The town had some lovely stone buildings, including the administrative buildings along Laurie Street, 4 churches made from local sandstone, as well as some private homes and businesses, most constructed between 1865 and 1895, as well as the 1875 Highfields Cottage, one of the early slab cottages built in Rylstone that is still standing. The district is known for its wool, sheep, cattle, wine and olives. From Rylstone we made our way back along Cudgegon Road through some pretty country, meeting up with the Castlereagh Highway 26 kilometres from Mudgee. On the way back we passed inlets of the Windermere Dam on the Cudgegon River and decided to stop in and have a look at the dam wall. What a stunning sight as we passed over the spillway towards the wall. The dam, completed in 1984 to meet irrigation, stock and domestic needs in the Cudgegon Valley, with the road winding its way around a number of inlets. The lake covers 20 square kilometres with a total capacity of 368 gigalitres. The dam is named after a property called Windermere, upon which it was built, and operates in conjunction with the Burrendong Dam. The Cudgegon Valley is renowned for its agricultural production, with water used to irrigate grapes, fruit, vegetables, maize, honey, grains and lucerne. Rick and I walked out part way onto the dam wall from the northern foreshore car park to enjoy the scenic views of the lake and the Cudgegong Valley. The wall, being 825 metres long and 67 metres high, was impressive, as was the views. The following day, after a cloudy and cool morning, we left Mudgee and made our way towards Lithgow, over some steep little climbs with lots of windy bends. We crossed Aaron's Pass and continued along the windy road, with some new bitumen with no lines, stopping for roadworks near Gray's Creek. To my left was the Cappitree National Park in the distance. We stopped in Cappitree for a break, where everything is centred around the main road. Cappitree is near the fascinating shale mining town of Glen Davis and the beautiful Gardens of Stone National Park, as well as the impressive Cappitree Valley. The Royal Hotel, the solitary pub on the main road, came into existence around 1870. It has been burnt down twice, and the present structure, which was built in the 1930s, incorporates some of the sandstone from the second building circa 1895. The school was opened in 1882, although the present schoolhouse dates from 1923. The Kookaburra Army Recruiting March in 1916 camped on the floor of the Cappitree School en route to Sydney. The Memorial Hall was built in 1951 as a tribute to the 80 men who enlisted in the wars in the 20th century. The bricks were collected from the abandoned shale refining retorts at neighbouring Torbane. The old lock-up, built in 1897, can still be seen behind the modern police station. Just 2 kilometres south of Cappitree, we passed Pearson's Lookout, that gave us stunning views of the majestic Cappitree Valley, with Pention's Crown dominating the ground below. The Cappitree Valley is an enclosed canyon. At its widest point is 30 kilometres from north to south, and recognised as the second largest canyon in the world, almost 1 kilometre longer than the Grand Canyon. It is hard to imagine that beneath the valley is a vast layer of coal and oil shale, and I only hope they never decide to start mining the area. The scenery continued to be stunning as we continued on through Benbullen and then Cullenbullen, the tiny village that was little more than a hotel and a few houses for people who work in the local mines and the power stations. Mount Victoria Pass was impressive, constructed by convicts and opened for traffic in 1832. The pass is one of the oldest and most significant engineered works in Australia still in use today. Located on the western side of the Blue Mountains on the Great Western Highway, it began construction between 1830 and 1838 using convict labour to surmount a difficult descent off the ridge of the mountain. The pass has been in almost continuous use since its construction, although from 1912 to about 1920 it was partly bypassed by the winding but less steep Berghoff's Pass to the north. However, when motor cars became powerful enough to scale the original ascent, Victoria Pass was fully reopened. The pass was created by cutting into the escarpment on one side and building up with stone wall embankments on the other. All work was carried out by chain gang convict labour and built by hand. The stone wall embankments are still the major structural elements of the road today, with no upgrading to these structures having occurred since Sir Thomas Mitchell's original construction. The road has been widened and filled over in parts over the years to allow for the increase in traffic, but a major portion of the original road is still intact, as built and functional. At the top of the pass was Mount Victoria, the westernmost village and suburb of Greater Sydney, located on an escarpment plateau, an extension of Mount York. Mount Victoria was the site of a camp on the original Blaxland, Wentworth and Lawson crossing of the Blue Mountains in 1813, originally marked as One Tree Hill on early maps. This is why when the township was established in 1866 it was known as One Tree Hill. Mount Victoria Manor, built in 1876, was once the home of the Fairfax family before being converted to a hotel. The Imperial Hotel, constructed in 1876, is significant for being the only hotel in the Blue Mountains to trade continuously under its own name until closing in 2016, pending renovations. We arrived in Blackheath, sitting at one of the highest points in the Upper Blue Mountains at 1,064 metres above sea level, and known for its dramatic cliffs, deep valleys and cooler climate. As we were a little early to check in, we spent some time wandering uptown to check out what the town had to offer, and found the town full of cafes, bakeries and antique shops. The first Europeans into the area were Blaxland, Wentworth, Lawson and their party, who successfully traversed the Blue Mountains and reached Mount Blaxland at the end of May 1813, the location where Blackheath now stands. In April 1815, Governor Lachlan Macquarie and his party passed through the area on their way to the new settlement of Bathurst. The first road through the area was completed by Captain William Cox in 1817, and the town was officially surveyed in 1823. By 1831, a Scottish farmer named Andrew Gardner had built the Scottish Thistle Inn, which 5 years later achieved a brief moment of fame when Charles Darwin visited it. The main Western Railway line came through in 1869, and the Blackheath railway station was completed in 1883. Blackheath was gazetted in 1885. Then, in 1947, it was absorbed into the city of Katoomba and the Shire of the Blue Mountains. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you have. Join us next time as we check out the Three Sisters and go waterfall hunting. Stay safe and enjoy life. Cheers for now. Rick and Rosemary. R&R, living life.